Leafs Talk, JD Bunkis, Justin Bourne, my friend, visiting the program. Sam McKee off in Hawaii. And I got to tell you, I don't think that he's going to miss watching that one.
Oh, man. Of all games for you guys to have me on, it's got to be just a Panther beatdown. It feels like I've done this show before.
Yeah. There's not a lot of positives from this one. Like I was pressing because I did want to pick your brain about some of the things from this game tonight, but the only way that I could describe this is this was just Panthers hockey. I can't tell you how many puck battles they won. It felt like their forecheck was two guys on, like, were they too many men on the ice every single shift? Because it felt like they had two to the puck and were just a terror to the Toronto Maple Leafs, completely bullied them shorthanded. And when coaches say we like to feel on top of a team, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah. And I think what's really terrifying is
all of it.
That's the type of game that teams play in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. That's the type of game that the Leafs have struggled with in the past. They struggled with it tonight. The Panthers look like the Panthers tonight. And if you're going to come out of the Atlantic, you're going to have to beat the Panthers at some point. So yeah, what I think is nice, because I am someone who likes to look for the positive.
Yeah, you are nice.
You know what you have to beat. It is clear. It's been cut out for you. When people say your work's cut out for you, that's what they mean. It's like, that's what you have to find your way through. They're above you. You have to fight through checks, second chance opportunities. Shots are tough to come by. I think Matthews' shot from the hash marks was his first shot attempt.
The turnover.
And I don't even know if Nylander had one by the end of the game. So
Marner didn't have one, but it's kind of unfair because he actually had one of the nicest shots of the game, which was the slap shot where it just hit the post right before the Tavares goal. But yeah, those guys were, it's difficult to generate when you spend the entire game in your zone is what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, the whole not great Bob thing, you and I were texting about the Morgan Riley whoopsie. Spend enough time in your own zone, you make a whoopsie or two, and those end up in your net and you go, or as I did in our text, it's like, that is the worst possible. What an unlucky outcome. But if you have you spend enough time in your own zone, luck happens. You're going to have some unlucky breaks. Just don't be in your own zone so much. Easier said than done. In a night where I will say it looked like Florida was hyper aware that they were at the end of a losing streak and needed one. Yeah. And they played like themselves after getting some bodies back tonight.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the shots here. I was pulling it up while you were speaking. Matthews did finish with the one because, again, the turnover. Nylander was 0 and Marner with 0 technically because of the post. I don't know how many times in those guys' history the three of them have combined for one shot, and it came in the third period. So,
I don't think it's ever. I bet this never happened before.
Yeah,
one shot between those guys.
One shot between them. Again, 1.5 sort of, because again, Mitch hit the post and it technically doesn't count as a shot. But pretty discouraging night. I got to tell you. Sorry.
Just while you're doing stats, I got my sport logic stuff just came to my inbox. Slot driving plays at even strength, 28-15 for
better
Florida.
Than I would have guessed.
And possession time, puck and OZ time, 24 minutes for Florida, 16 for Toronto about. So yeah, that's all.
That's it. Just a significant amount of difference in the two most important statistics, according to Sports Logic, is not so bad. Yeah, I got to tell you, man, I'm trying not to overreact to this one because I don't have the energy for it right on the fringe of playoffs, right? Like you got to conserve for those games. And ultimately, you don't know if Florida's going to happen. But this is how people start to get conspiratorial with the Florida tank stuff, right? Like, this is when you start to spin out and you start to wonder if these guys are eyeing this matchup or desiring this matchup or trying to get this to this matchup, because
of course they desire it over Tampa Bay, but you just can't create it. You don't know who's going to be where.
Yeah. I'm just saying that this is what causes people to start spinning out with this, is because they see the examples of games like this. And it's kind of hard to go, it'll be fine in the playoffs. You'll see it'll be materially different. They'll bear down against the team that bears down the best. It's just, God, man, like you just can't teach some of the stuff that Florida has, I think.
I saw someone say, and it might have been our boy Jake B. Leafs, it might have been Myrtle, but someone said they're the best team to do the best team to play that way in the last like 10 years. The team that just, they are what they are. They're committed to it. Even when, you know, the running joke from back in the day that Pittsburgh used to be able to tape anyone to Crosby and it's like, oh, Mark Donk and Buzz Flibbit have 60 points or whatever. You know, you look at Florida now and it's like, oh, like Mackie Samoskevich is punching guys in the scrum after the whistle and Seth Jones has tight gaps in the neutral zone. And, you know, they just, when you have a good culture and structure, it's easier for people to fill in, and Florida has that. I actually think, JD, it's okay for us to say best of 7, Florida's almost certainly, all things equal, everyone's healthy, whatever, Florida's almost certainly beating them. That doesn't mean Toronto can't win a series. They can't get great goaltending. Injuries can't happen. You could get there without having to face them. You never know. But I think it's pretty clear that when these two teams have everything going, the Leafs aren't there.
It's just it's a terrible matchup for them.
Yeah, and that's an even better way to phrase it. It's not that they're a better team against all 32. That matchup sucks for them.
It's horrendous for them. You don't want them. You can't have them. And yeah, there's a path for Toronto to beat that team, but it's a pretty thin one, right? And even when you think about, and I was going to ask you about this tonight too, is like the formula that Toronto has, right? Where like they're just flipping pucks all game long out of the D zone. And I don't even really know what other option they have, because like, what are you supposed to do against that forecheck other than just flip it out, flip it out, flip it out? But that's also the goal of the team, right? And there were so many times where either Toronto turned it over or Florida's just kind of collecting themselves in the neutral zone and then bombing right back in on guys who end up being tired by that relentless forecheck. And I just kept kind of thinking to myself, is there any better way against this? Because again, to reference the being on top of them thing, that's how this felt. And I got to say credit to Florida, because they came out with a purpose in this first period. Like they shoved that first period down Toronto's throats. And it's a soft goal by Woll that breaks it 1-0. I thought that he settled down in this game. But again, to the margins argument that I'm making here with Florida, where you're going, okay, well, how could Toronto beat this team? You have to have literally perfect goaltending. And so the second you let in that one soft goal, like the one Woll did, it felt like a 2-3 goal lead rather than a 1 goal lead for just that stretch. So I just don't know what they can even do to adjust for what it is that Florida does at their very best.
The one thing that I think the Leafs, you know, one of the ways to hang around is I think since the deadline and since they got Carlo, like they're without McCabe tonight, when they have their 6D, I think they're really tight defensively, don't give a lot of second chance opportunities, clear the front of the net pretty well. But then Florida's over top you, gives you no space, whatever. My point there is I think it'd be a low scoring series. I think you're looking at 2-1 games, 3-2 in overtime. You know, I think it's a lot of tight hockey. And when the games are tight like that, a bounce or a break can make a difference. A hot power play can make a difference. You can sneak by. You know, let's not forget when they got by Tampa 2 years ago, they had 3 OT winners. And that's okay, you know, but you would just have to be accepting of the fact that we're going to be in these battles, and basically the first one to give up on the not every inch matters thing, I can take a shift off, is going to lose. And Florida's proven to win a lot like that. That's the game you would have to accept you'd be in.
Yeah, I just think, again, it's like those are all great points. And I totally agree that, you know, I don't think that these two teams are just like worlds apart in terms of talent or goaltending or even blue line depth, which Florida, you know, you look at their guys when they're fully healthy, and you think, damn, that's really good. It's just that, to me, this is a story of two teams who want to play the same way, and the one team just does it way better and is so much deeper with their forward group in terms of the style that they want to employ. Like, that's what you really feel when you're watching these Panthers games, is that it's not just like one line of guys that comes over and creates havoc the way that they do. It's line after line after line. And then eventually, like you said, you get that one bounce that goes off of Riley's stick and then into the back of the net, or you make the one mistake and all of a sudden somebody's in the slot and burying one. And it was tough to think about this team tonight, the way that they played, and going, they don't even have Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk. That's bad.
You know,
what them kill that deep up front and not have those guys. God,
they have. I actually think that the Leafs have a willingness to play that sort of way that we're talking about too. But the core players in Florida, the guys who are on the ice the most, like Barkov is Bergeron, right? He's always on the right side of things. Bennett, we know that they like to play this way. It's natural to them. You're asking Matthews to play in a way, it's not his preference. He can do it, and he's very good at it. Very good. But, like, it's not his preference. It's not Marner's preference. It's not Tavares' preference. So, it's almost like you're being an inauthentic version of yourself. But what else can you do? But just you have to believe that it's the way that it works. And it works. It's just, it's hard to outdo a team who lives that life, man. That's just who they are.
Yeah, the authenticity of the Panthers is really something. That's kind of what I was alluding to earlier when I said you just can't teach some of what they have, like some of the bite that they have, some of the tenacity that some of those players have. I'm not sure that you can give that to a Bobby McMahon despite the size that he has, right? It's just a core difference with some of the players. And I will say to their credit, which I feel like I should be giving out considering the three of them had one shot. I actually thought that Matthews and Marner were really engaged in this hockey game. Knies was engaged in this hockey game. They just couldn't get anything going. They were suffocated.
Better or worse for you, though? Like, it's like they were in it. They tried. They didn't not try, and they still didn't get a sniff.
Yeah. No, honestly, man, this game was like, I think this game was hard on a lot of people. And
are we helping?
No, because I genuinely.
Are we overreacting? Could it just be? It was just one hockey game. Florida played great. They brought their A game. Leafs didn't have it.
Not. The problem is that it's not one hockey game. Is that we have a sample of watching these teams all season long, and Toronto got one of the games, and it's like they beat again a team that scratched Barkov right before the contest started, and I thought played their worst game of the entire season series. And so it's like when you factor in the playoffs and them knocking Toronto out, and you factor in what you've seen in this regular season between these two teams, I'm a little nervous that. So I think the one thing we happen to overdo, and I've always had a really tough time kind of pinning down, is like the psychological component to these things, right? Where it's like when you get into Game 7 against Boston, how much of it is the psychological versus just a guy makes a bad change and a puck goes in the back of the net, your goaltender gets hurt, right? Like, I think we probably tend to overdo the psychological stuff to a degree, but I also know that in any performance, in terms of like any high caliber performance, I don't even care if it's like professional sports or like a profession, confidence matters. And I think that this Panthers team is extremely confident when they play the Leafs that their will outwill the Leafs outwilling this.
It will. It's actually funny because I was watching the Panthers when I first turned it on, and I had this thought of like, you just come to believe a certain jersey can't lose, and it doesn't matter who's inside it. There is the Bruins for a few years where it didn't seem to matter, the Lightning for a few years, and I feel that way about Florida right now. And I was trying to remember when the Panthers sucked, looking at that jersey and being like, God, is it just because I've seen them have success recently that I feel like they're so good? Is it the jerseys? But that's happening with the players too, right? That, without thinking it through quite as literally as I was, there is this sense that just like that Florida jersey now means something, and you associate it with Gudas putting Kampf into another dimension, and him yelling in Woll's face and all the things that went wrong in that series. You sort of make those associations. So yeah, you got to create some new vibes. The Leafs would have home ice if there was a 2-3 or a 1-4. Does that help at all? Does it feel more hostile in Florida? I don't know, but there's definitely something to the sweaters right now.
Well, suddenly there's a lot more pressure on tomorrow night's game too, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you need that game to stay out of that matchup.
Well, not even just that. You're not just to stay out of the matchup, but also like you can't get bodied by the two teams that you're basically trying to say you're on par with in the Eastern Conference.
Did I do this take with you yet where it's going to be the leafiest thing ever that they go to Florida, get smoked by both teams, and then have to lay it on the line against Buffalo and Detroit to win the division? And they do, but they, incur some injury or wear at the end because they couldn't get through these games. This is my nightmare scenario. Just Tuesday. Doomsday
Yeah,
stuff.
and then all of a sudden there's one of these guys with a phantom injury that you're finding out about right before the postseason starts, where it's like he's day to day, and you're like, no,
Yeah.
God, please don't do this.
I think when Bobby McMahon went away before playoffs last year,
Mhm.
did it get mentioned? Like, I'm being dramatic, but like it was like it never happened. He was on the team,
Yeah.
and then in game 1 he was not on the team, and we were all like, "What about Matthews? What about Nylander?" And it was like McMahon just went away.
Well, to be fair, there was already a little bit of like McMahon is a bit of a band-aid stuff, and people didn't know him well enough yet. He hadn't
Right.
established himself, and he felt like such a flash in the pan. He got that contract, and we were kind of like, oh, okay, you're not really counting on him. You don't know what you have. This season, he feels like a real core player, right? Where it like core to their success, I would say, not core in terms of just like an unmovable guy from the team, but just if you're trying to envision the Leafs having success, it's because their top 6 dominates, and he's a part of the top 6. So I guess that brings me to this question about tonight's game is, other than the stuff that we've kind of touched on, which is just the way Florida plays, right? Which is their forecheck, their tenacity, some timely saves from their goaltender when Toronto did get the few opportunities that they had, right? It required the goal that goes in on Bobrovsky is Tavares tipping it off of Nate Schmidt's stick as he starts to get space, and it ends up going top shelf. Like, nice play by Tavares, nice move to get that space, but it does get slightly deflected, and I think changes angles to get past Bobrovsky.
Your point is it's not repeatable. It's not like from the course of play they dominated or something.
No, they weren't really doing anything offensively with any consistency tonight. Like, I thought that they generated a few opportunities, and same thing, they got a few turnovers and got their chances, which is what they're trying to do. But ultimately, like, they never had sustained pressure in this game, really. I thought that they came out well in the second period, I guess. That's like probably my biggest positive, is after getting body bagged in the first, they really pushed back and played what was their best period of the game in the second, but just like the third was pretty much all Florida as well. But is there one thing in particular, like from the Leafs standpoint of play, that concerned you the most tonight?
Well, I mean, it really is just the core guys not being able to generate much. And I feel like, I'm thinking about Austin Matthews, and I'm thinking about how he, we talked about his health throughout the year. And it was always like, if he's not the best guy for them, they're in real trouble. Like they need these guys to be the guys. And in a game where you knew he'd be keyed on and they'd focus and whatever, didn't love it. I actually really disliked, the turnover on the empty net when it's 2-1. I didn't. So yeah, just some of those things are concerning. I will say the bottom 6 and like the coaching staff's kind of unwillingness to put together something that makes sense for me still. Like Yarncroc, I think, has not found it. It's still so just they got 6 guys down there and there's not much of a plan. So yeah, I'm only concerned about their best player and 2 other lines.
You know what's concerning to me about the bottom 6 tonight?
What's that?
Is that Nick Robertson, who had just like a horrific turnover, right? Like on the power play, just handed it to Brad Marchand and said, here you go. And then Marchand went the other way in a breakaway. Outside of this moment, and actually I was going to ask you too, is this like more on Domi who kind of feeds it to him there, or not? That's still more Robertson.
Yeah, Robertson's trying to be cute in a not cute area, but the pass puts him in a tough spot. It's gross all around.
Yeah, it's not good, but like out of the bottom 6 guys tonight, I kind of thought Robertson was hard on pucks and at least had some noticeable flashes. And I'm going, the guy that I had the most confidence in throughout the vast majority of the season, not being on the playoff roster against the Florida Panthers, was the most noticeable bottom 6 guy for me. And that's not good. That's a baddie for me. That's a sneaky baddie from tonight for me.
Yeah. I think, I'll channel my inner Kyprios here today and say, watching McMahon at the one moment when someone's mad at him, I couldn't help but think a guy that big, it would have gone a long way towards like, we're going to see you in the playoffs and I'm not, and seeing him fight someone or punch someone or, whatever. And then, Lorentz, you didn't get it out of him. And you go through the line, you didn't see anyone be like, we're going to play you in playoffs and, F you, we're setting the tone here. Just none of that happened at any point. They just kind of tried to score for 60 minutes, didn't score, and then they went home.
Yeah, there's honestly not much to this game, really. Like, I'm kind of stretching it because it was really 60 minutes of just pretty much the same thing from Florida, and Toronto responding by trying to desperately flip the puck out. Like, flip it out, flip it out, flip it out, flip it out. And then the few times that they would kind of try to collect it and circle back and take their time out of the zone, there was a Panther on top of them. And then the Panthers were winning those puck battles routinely. And same thing when the Leafs were in the offensive zone and they're trying to dump it in and they're trying to go win those puck battles, which is the way they're trying to deploy their offensive strategy this year. Florida was like, no, you.
It's like trying to open a door that like is locked and you just keep ramming your shoulder into it. And eventually you go, well, that's stuck. That's not opening.
I just
go home.
Yeah. That, like I said, I keep saying this over and over because that's how I feel, but it's like, that was a toughie. And man, gotta tell you, the one thing that I thought was going to be more
pretty
good. What?
Wool was good. I liked Wool.
Yeah, I was just going to say the one thing I thought was going to be a negative story from this game was Wool, because he let in an awful goal. The first goal of this game is just like, it's unacceptable for this goaltender in this matchup to let in what is just like it's a fine wrister, right? Like it goes posting in, but it's a clean look off the faceoff that goes right to a defensive. Like, look at that wrist shot. It's like, how fast do you think that went?
I don't know, 73.
Yeah, that's nothing. You gotta have that. And so the numbers back this up, but Wool has been terrific with it. It's just one of those things where the confirmation bias feels heavier because it happens so infrequently with both guys. But the one thing that has given Stolarz the edge, and this has been kind of a running theme for me with Leafs talk this season and my commentary on the two guys, is factually Stolarz has let in fewer of those types of goals. Like I've had Kevin Woodley run the numbers for me, and it is what it is. Like those low danger chances, Wool has let in more this year than Stolarz. And
that ends the debate for me.
What?
That ends the debate for me. If he lets in fewer of those, they're very good at protecting the front of the net right now. So just don't give up any we shouldn't give up, and we'll take our chances.
Yeah. And so I just kind of felt like, in a weird way, despite Wool being the team's best player tonight by like a pretty wide margin, it was also not a good night for him because of that goal.
Yeah. It's like funny, which is like, that's how high the bar is. Like, you let in one bad one, that's too many. We can't have that, you know?
That's what I mean. It's like, it's tough, but it's probably true. And I really felt that in the moment when he let it in. I went, God, that one goal feels just about like it when it comes to this goaltending debate heading into it. Like Stolarz coming off of the shutout and a couple of wins and not letting in those softies. And then Wool comes in against the Panthers, his first time against his team in the first period, he lets in a soft goal. Again, the rest of the game, he was spectacular. I think he's a really good goaltender. I think there's something to the fact that he has more playoff experience than Stolarz. I don't think Stolarz's leash should be more than, honest to God, a start. If he performs poorly in one start, I would go to Wool. Like, I'm not this, I don't believe in the difference between these guys being like night and day. I'm saying it's this thin where a guy lets in one bad goal and I'm like, yep, sorry, you've let in too many more than the other guy. He has to get the nod in the first one.
I'm okay with that if you're saying Ty goes to the runner. Like if he has an okay game, he's not out. You know, like I actually am, because I'm thinking of Binnington against Sweden, where it was like, you could have talked me into taking him out of the net after Sweden. And the team went, nah, we've given him the nod, you know, as the guy. We're going to give him another chance. And I think that's kind of the Stolarz spot. He loses you a game or plays outright bad, fine, and give him the hook. If not, you know, if he's okay, I think you got to give him at least another one. But I can't. Tough to see it changing now, even if he gets lit up in whatever 2 of his last 5 starts.
No, that's it. It's like I kind of think that they've got their guy, and the way that they deployed it, even in a weird way, I thought was more of an actual statement of they do have their guy, because Stolarz played well in those other games, and they were like, yeah, actually the Tampa game is more important to us, and we're going with Stolarz in the Tampa game.
And then now they're going into Tampa on the tail end of a back-to-back, and it's like, it's a tough night. This is, I mean, but really, you win tomorrow, you win the division. Yep. It's pretty simple. You'll have a 4-point lead. Both you'll have four games left. You know, at that point, it's all but a lock. So,
no, I want to make this clear in terms of the way that I'm reacting to this game. This game to me is not an indictment of the Leafs and their playoff chances as a whole. This to me is just, it's hard not to read into it when it comes to them matching up with Florida over the course of a 7-game series. And especially when it's going to be a Florida team that's proven it and a Florida team that's going to be healthier and deeper come that matchup.
Well, so let's set the stage then. Tomorrow might be the most important game of the Leafs season. And so if you extrapolate that, it might be the most important game of this Leafs core's tenure. Because if they win tomorrow, they win the division, and they have the chance to play Ottawa in the first round. It's very possible Tampa Bay could knock out Florida in the first round in a 2-3 matchup.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, then you're playing Tampa after winning a round, ideally. And, you've beat Tampa. I think they're 50-50 there. It can be the start of something great. But you lose to Tampa. Tampa wins the division. You end up with Florida. It could be the start of the downfall. And I did this with the Winnipeg Jets the other day, that this was the most important week in their franchise. I think it's possible that tomorrow is up there for this core in terms of important games.
I would agree. The only thing that I can't do is, had they just won one of those games against Montreal, they would have gone through this week. Like, Montreal made the Stanley Cup, and yes, it was COVID. And I will admit, there's a small part of me that is glad the Leafs didn't win that Stanley Cup as the first one since '67, to have all the especially if they were going to win later. Again, this is a weird thing to say. I've never really confessed this. I would never want to lose to Montreal. Like, that was one of the most embarrassing experiences you could have as a sports fan, blowing a 3-1 lead to a Montreal team that was just like, shouldn't have even been there. Right.
Yeah.
But that runway, in terms of, if you wanted that cup, if you were like, no, a cup is a cup is a cup, then it was just never going to get easier than that. Like, you're
right. And I will say, when I'm talking about big games, by the way, I mean non-playoff games, because obviously those are more crucial. But
I kind of think that even with playoff games, this one's so big, just considering the scenario that you're outlining here. It's like, they got to avoid this team. That everybody knows it. Even though the Senators have beat them a million times in a row and look like a horrible matchup, and there's all this weight when it comes to the history with this matchup, there's not one Leaf fan on the planet that would take the Panthers over the Senators.
I mean, oh my God, like, there's a couple guys on Ottawa's D-core. It's Clevin and Montepallo, and they're 20th in the league in scoring. Like, there's reasons to think you have a better chance against them. I'm not trying to disparage Ottawa, but they ain't Florida. Ottawa would tell you they're not Florida.
Yeah, they're just not that. Anything else from this game for you? Because, I don't think I have anything else.
Sub good.
Oh, I was going to say, what'd you think of the power play?
I mean, atrocious. They definitely gave up more chances than they created.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was going to say that the one thing you need to have is the power play clicking at the right time. And it would have been nice to score one on that team, not just from the result standpoint, but just to go, okay, right, this is the formula. Goaltending.
Tavares catching one in the slot and deciding to, like, set his feet and stand over it like a golfer instead of just shooting it bothered me. That would have been nice to see him shoot that. But otherwise, just not up to snuff tonight.
Did they have another chance other than that one?
No.
Yeah. Anyways, those of you, I can't believe some of you watched this one, because it's like, I think if you were in maybe like the 5th grade, I could have just been like, what happened tonight? And the 5th grader would have gone, well, that team just kind of beat the snot out of the other team. No. And
that team had the puck the whole time.
Yeah. They're like, the score was very lucky to be what it was, right? And you're like, it sure was.
Hi, this is Justin Bourne, representing AWS Ice Tilt. Florida had the puck the whole game.
Most of the game. Thanks, and then when Toronto had it, they didn't have it for very long. They had it for a bit, and then they didn't. And that was tonight's game. All right. You can subscribe to this podcast on both Apple and Spotify. Again, we're in the playoff stretch here, so hopefully this is going to get more exciting than it was tonight. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at JD Bunkis, at JT Bourne. And I will see you tomorrow night with Anthony Petrelli. Justin, thanks for making time, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. And looking forward to playoffs.